So what next after the End Bad Governance protests? Well, for one, we right here will play our part by engaging government and ensuring that they are answerable to the people and let's deliver the dividends of democracy. Today, we have joining us to push that conversation further, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Community Engagement Northwest, Mr. Abdullahi Tanko Yekasai. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Morning, Kyle. Thank you for having me.
Seeing the images coming out of the Northwest region, Kano, Kaduna, seeing young people, very young people waving, foreign flags, trooping out into the streets. For a lot of people, they were shocked, thinking, where did they come from? Where have they been? Now, after the protests, where did they go to? Because there's still that concern. Former president said we're sitting on a keg of gunpowder. So there's that challenge. You are in charge of community engagement. So you play a major role in linking what President Bola Tinubu is doing and linking it to what the people see and know about the functions of government. So speak to us first about what we saw play out during the End Bad Governance protests. What have you been able to glean regarding those young Nigerians? Where are they now? Let me just ask you, are they back at home? Are they back somewhere? Have you been able to ask those questions?
Thank you so much for having me, Kayode. I think let me start by going back to the genesis of this problem. These boys, as we speak, they are not back at home. Majority of them are on the streets because they have always been on the streets. Just take an instance, before former President, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari came into power, during the campaign times in 2014, any boy at that time that was 10 years is now 20 years, has become an adult, should have been doing one or two things to take care of himself, even if he can't do it for his parents and his siblings, but at least for himself. So it has been a neglect of this teeming youth for a long time. And three things are playing out, Mr. Kayode. One, the lack of education. Two, because these boys are on the street, they lack morals. They are not well trained and cultured because they go out since morning, they roam the streets, they don't go back home. No, the parents don't even know what time they get back home. So there's that moral decadence. And then number three, the street is their terrain. So what played out when I sat down, I looked at it, I saw that it was a neglect by our leaders, by our people over time. Because, in the last 10 years, if these boys have been, educated, once you have a job to do, you won't go out there on the street protesting, vandalizing people's businesses and all that. So for me, the root cause of this is the lack of education to those children. The former president before Buhari, His Excellency Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, started a program, a wonderful program, the Almajiri school system. Yeah. And based on statistics, in the north alone, we have over 10 million of these boys. Imagine if these boys have been educated, what they could have done to themselves and even to the economy of the country.
And that takes me to my next question. In fact, two of them, two-pronged.
Okay.
Because you're meant to do this community engagement thing on a big scale, particularly in the Northwest. Tell us, what then is a plan of the Tinubu government for these young people who you say are still on the streets? I shudder to think what they're doing right now, what their mindset is, and what it will take to get them back on the right track. So walk us through briefly. So what plan does the Tinubu government have? And I imagine that the plan should have been in motion already for at least a year now, because if it's not started yet, then we have a big challenge on our hands. That's on the one hand. The second question is then, people have said that the North does not really like the Tinubu government. In fact, those protests, some saw it as a way of North telling the Tinubu government that we're not a fan of you, really, because it wasn't clear-cut who they voted for between Atiku and President Tinubu. It was a very close one. So two questions: the Tinubu government's plan and the North's, approach towards this Tinubu government? Do they like this government? Are they supporting this government? You'll have engaged people and you know better.
Yes, okay. To answer your first question, His Excellency President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has rolled out a lot of programs to support our teeming youth. We have about 11 programs at the moment that people are benefiting. There's the social register where a lot of our youth are benefiting from this social register. Just recently, I got to know that about 20 million Nigerians are collecting this conditional cash transfer.
Is it a 50,000 or how much?
25, it varies, 25,000 and 50,000.
How many people did you say?
Over 19 million. Before it was 50 million, as I'm talking to you. It has increased in the last few months to 19-point-something million Nigerians.
And the people in your constituency getting it? You've done a community engagement.
Yes, they are getting it.
So we can ask now, and they will tell us that they are getting it.
In fact, I have figures to give you that we're putting people in that social register. It started from December. For 3 months, 25,000. People have seen their alerts that December. But so because of the issues,
it will be over now.
It will be over 3 months. Then the more we're getting more money, the more we're increasing the register. This is why I'm telling you, at the moment we have over 19 million. This is a fact. Go and check it to verify. These people are getting this grant. There's the student loan. This NEL fund that is disbursing student loan. As of now, immediately the president announced this. As of today, over 2.2 billion has been released. My state, Kano State, is getting the highest with over 800, out of 2.2 billion, 850, is it 306, is from Bayero University, Kano. Next is University of Borno, University of Maiduguri. In Borno State, is getting close to 500 million. That's, then the other ones, you see 45, 25. So we're expecting, as of today now, over 20,000 students, youth, are benefiting from the student loan. This is all aimed at making sure no student drops out because of financial issues. So, and Mr. President has said 45.6 billion has been given to NEL Fund for this program. And in his broadcast to the nation, he mentioned that additional 50, which is in aggregate about 100 billion, has been put in for this student loan. Then we have the other ones like the Youth Initiative, where 110 billion is there for them. So now, what Mr. President is doing is strategic. First of all, he has put in 100 billion for school feeding. This is for basic education. He has now put in 100 billion for tertiary institutions.
So we're back to school feeding now.
We'll be back to it. He has put in now all the agencies under the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs have been appointed now.
But we've not seen the outcome of the probe of the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. So the question is then, how do we trust the process if we've not seen the outcome of the previous one?
Coyote,
we don't even know whether she's guilty or not.
You know, the issue of that is around EFCC, and there's legal issues there. So I don't know what is happening, but I know they're on top of it. But to tell you the truth, these programs I'm telling you are ongoing. So Mr. President has touched the basic young upcoming Nigerians. 1, 2, the tertiary institutions, so no student will drop out once you finish this school. And we're doing we're planning to start town hall meeting with these students at the university level, so that they know that this thing is not, you're supposed to pay after graduating.
Pardon me. So we have more questions for you. Let's allow you take some water. Jeffrey and Ann, over to you guys.
All right, Mr. Akasa, let's continue in that trajectory. First, let me ask, because when the students' loan came on board, people asked a lot of questions. First, do you think that the issue of the student loan was a necessity as far as this time and age is concerned for the Nigerian economy? That's my first question. And then secondly, people are saying that rather than a loan, it should be a grant. Does it make sense to you that that should be the direction of the government?
Okay, you see, honestly, the student loan is a deliberate attempt by Mr. President to make sure no student drops out. It's been happening. Once you don't have the money to pay for your second term semester. It means you won't be in that school for that second term semester, and it means you can't go to the next year in your university. So it's a deliberate attempt by Mr. President to make sure no student drops out. Then secondly, why it is a loan? Yes, if you look at it, it's on a single-digit rate, the interest. And if you make it a loan, every student that collects that money knows that he must be serious, he must do what is right, he must concentrate in school and make sure he graduates. Because he knows that once he starts working, he will pay that loan by the time he finishes school and start. So this is something we also need to bring awareness to the people, especially engagement in town hall meeting with the students, so that they get to know that this loan, you're not going to be paying immediately. It's not going to strangulate you. You have the liberty to get it from level 1 up to level 4, and then till after you graduate, you start working. That is when you start paying, because it's linked with your BBN, it's linked with your NIN and all that. So it's a deliberate attempt by this government to make sure that education is given topmost priority.
Well, it's still at the infant stage, so we're still watching and how it plays out eventually.
At the infant stage, in the last 3 months, I'm giving you these figures. In the last 3 monds,
it's still at
from when Mr. President.
It's still at infant stage. It's just been implemented. That's what I'm saying. So
yes.
Let's just leave it at that. Now, let's go to the issue of which where Kayode started from. Sorry about that. Which Kayode started from, which has to do with the protest. When you look at what happened with the End Bad Governance process, and we look at the way government characterized this protest, it feels to the onlookers like the government majored on what subversive elements or political interest, people with political interest will do with the protest rather than what the people themselves actually want out of the protest. Do you think that the government really, or let me put it this way, don't you think the government missed out on an opportunity to really engage the Nigerian people on what they want in representation of what they define as good governance? Because the highlights of what happened is things were destroyed, regrettably. People were killed. Sadly, it's quite unfortunate. And all of that, there was a lot of noise as to how it can be hijacked. Eventually, it was hijacked and all of that. But do you think government missed out on an opportunity to really give the people the kind of governance they want in terms of listening to them and attending to their needs? Because you're in charge of engagement for community.
Okay, thank you so much. You see, Mr. President, during his broadcast, said he has heard these young Nigerians. He shares in their pain for good governance. But His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is just over a year in office. And so that means all this problem of bad governance hasn't started during his time. In fact, he's doing his best, because the remarkable achievements of Mr. President in agriculture, in power sector, in the economy itself, because as it is now, Nigeria, between January to June 2023, and if you compare it to January to June 2024, Nigeria has saved like 9.1 trillion between January to June 2024, compared to what was obtainable last year. And then Mr. President has gone further to be servicing those debts that are holding Nigeria by the neck, especially the backlog we have on Forex. So he was able to, leverage on the resources we're getting from the removal of fuel subsidy. He has paid airline operators that are holding the debt, that we keep servicing those debt, in and out. He has paid $5 billion. This has settled the airline operators. This has settled those that are, giving us gas to power our plants. That's in the power sector. So, he's doing wonderful economic programs, social intervention programs in agriculture. We have cultivated 118,000 and beyond. And his plan is we're going to cultivate 10 million hectares. Now, at the moment, we have cultivated 118. This has added to the economy with 309 billion into the economy. This is a wonderful program. And then, you see, out of that 118, our neighboring state, Jigawa State, 40,000 hectares of land has been cultivated. So these are all aimed at, bringing down the cost of governance, bringing down hardship. And then the borders have been opened. Mr. President has directed that the borders should be open for grains, rice, maize, sorghum, and all that. And he has removed tariff on the importation of these things, So all these are aimed at not only the food grains, even pharmaceuticals. And then on the CNG side of the whole thing, by the time throughout the nation we are having these CNG centers and the buses, 70% of the price of transportation will reduce. So it's a gradual process, but we're getting there, and Mr. President is doing his best to make sure that this country is being reset, because we need reorientation of our people, we need reorientation of our own selves to make sure that, yes, Nigeria becomes the Nigeria of our dream.
All right, Mr. Yakasai, I recall last year you were very big on talking about insecurity. And as, of course, the special assistant now in the northwestern zone, which is made up of where most of the insecurity problems are, Kano, Kaduna, we're talking about Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto. What have you been able to achieve in terms of engagement? When you talk about community engagement, which means you're listening to what the community wants, you're listening to what people want, and you're getting that feedback back to government and governance to ensure that serious actions are taken in terms of insecurity. Looking at everything going on now, talking about insecurity in the Northwest region where you oversee, what would you think? Do you think you're even doing enough to say what the people want in terms of community engagement and tackling insecurity in that region?
Okay, thank you so much. You see, the issue of insecurity, I keep saying this all the time. It's not just about our security forces, the police, the army, civil defense, and whatnot. No, it's a collective thing. We are trying as much as possible to let people know that security is all about the whole community, because what we're advocating now is community policing, because these people, the criminals, are within these communities. So once we enlighten people through town halls meeting, through one-on-one engagement, through meeting with the traditional rulers, the community leaders, and even government personalities, we tell them that this community policing is the only way that will bring a lasting solution. So it's a collective thing. Everybody must be involved in tackling this insecurity. As it is, I will tell you, there's a lot of improvement because if you had remembered during the last administration, you can't go to Kano, to Abuja, to Kaduna by road. But when was the last time you heard of kidnapping in the Northwest? In Kano, Kaduna, Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria axis. That was a daily occurrence of insecurity. Now you can drive, you can go by train. There's that, we can see there's improvement in that area. The challenge is still in Katsina, precisely, and Zamfara. And I think our security forces are doing their best because compared to where we're coming from and now, obviously, between you and I, you know that there's a lot of reduction in crime and all this insurgency. Because before, every now and then you hear of schools being kidnapped, 300, 400 students being kidnapped from schools, from villages.
Well, as
now
a matter of fact, there's still kidnappings.
There's still kidnapping, but
it's not... days ago, a wife and kids were kidnapped. In fact, there's a certain doctor who's been in the kidnappers' den for months now. We had that conversation yesterday. So these challenges are still there when you talk about the Kaduna-Abuja axis, but these challenges still remain. Let's begin to wind down now, because I asked you earlier on about the perception of northern Nigeria, about the Tinubu government. And I reiterate, during that period, it was as though the North was saying, well, Tinubu government, we're not a fan of you. Is that true?
That is your perception. That is not true. what you saw that happened during this Ed Band governance riot is people that are not happy with this government.
Because it's only Northwest we saw protesters asking Putin to take over, calling for the military.
That is to tell you, with these children that are 20 years and below, how do they know?
Because we didn't see that during the Buhari.
How do they know army?
We didn't see that during the
Were
Buhari.
were they alive when?
Obviously,
when
those children.
No, when Abacha was in power.
We didn't see
how did they know military? Some people are instigating them.
No, this is what I'm saying. We didn't see those protests.
Yes.
Them calling for military to take over when the Buhari government was in power.
That's what I'm telling you. There are people behind it.
Okay.
The security report has shown that there are people behind that flag you see.
So why now? Why not then? When we had challenges as well?
It's a continuous thing.
Okay. We have to wind down.
It's still
now,
APC government.
We really have to run. You come from a very rich political background. Your father just released a statement about the call for a new constitution. Your brother as well from APC to PRP. Now he's back in the APC.
He's back in the APC.
I believe with Ganduje,
yes,
whom they had issues when he was commissioner. So quite interesting political background you have, but we'll see how that plays out in the coming days. But thank you so much for your time. Of course, we'll continue this engagement.
Yes,
you can make the point.
Remarks?
10 seconds.
Okay. Please urge all our Northwest youth to please, a lot of these programs of government, 11 I said, are there for you to key in.
All right.
We will continue to engage you, to enlighten you on town hall meetings and all that, and platforms for you to know how to key in so that you benefit from it. All these programs are.
And it's important for them to see it in reality. But we'd like to thank you so much. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Community Engagement Northwest, Tanko Yakasai. A lot of people will know your father, Tanko Yakasai.
But it's me they don't know.
It's you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Aide. Thank you so much.
A quick break now, and when we return, well, you must have heard about his story. He's a young Nigerian who is quite brilliant in the world of music. Stay with us.